Okay. Welcome all to the January 5th meeting of the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. As usual, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Okay. Minutes of December 1st.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of December 1st.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right. Tie and bond.
Yep, hello everybody. Derek from Time Bond.
Hi, Derek.
Project engineer on the water treatment plant project.
Come up to the table, and if you haven't signed in, sign in.
I have signed in.
Okay.
Sit at the table, get a little closer. So I'm working on the water treatment plant project. We've gotten a bathroom variance from the state plumbing board, and we're coming in front of the commissioners now to get approval for the sewer connection for the bathroom at the treatment plant. We've sent in the application. I've got a copy here of the sewer application, but it's essentially just one small E1 station for the bathroom, the shower there, the little kitchenette sink, some compliance analyzer waste, and floor drains. I know we had a little bit of a mail issue. The permits were submitted last week. I think they're stuck in.
They're somewhere in the town.
Somewhere in the building. I got a copy of the application and our cover letter describing it. I can bring it up, but otherwise, I was hoping to get approval for the sewer connection today.
Sewer connection, and the plan is to connect that on Fairview
Yep.
through the
easement.
through the easement.
So the easement is still ongoing. The negotiations from the town and the property owners is still ongoing. So we'd expect the easement, the final easement, to be provided, as a condition of the permit for now. And the permit will be used for the SRF funding application. So getting our approval to bid, part of that will be receiving that permit.
So it'll just be one outdoor E1 pump?
Yeah,
Sending
the model we're using is WH472.
Inch and a quarter discharge line probably going.
We're gonna go to 2. It's gonna be like an inch and a quarter out of the pump, and then we'll have a 2-inch line going. I got an easement plan here if you'd like to take a look at it.
We have copies of it.
Going over to Fairview and then
Yeah.
coming into an existing manhole over there.
Is that the pumps we use, George?
I mean, that's a common pump. It's either that or Liberty.
I'm just saying, do we have one on the shelf?
We have some at the shop, so we can cover if we have to.
Can you check to make sure that model will pump that head? I know the E1s kind of have a lower head
Yep.
that they pump.
Yeah, we should be okay. We're still gonna, before we go out to bid, we're gonna get E1 to do a technical review just to double check, but our engineers are taking a look at it, and that's the recommended pump. We had initially gone with a precast manhole with the Liberty grinder pumps, but we kind of simplified it to come in better aligned with the pumps that you guys usually have on the shelf. So it might not be the exact pump that you have, but it's the same manufacturer. It's gonna be a package station right outside the building.
Liberty does those package stations.
Yep, we're gonna accept any
Liberty.
manufacturer, E1, Liberty,
Liberty
or
and
Barnes.
bonds, Liberty bonds and E1s are the 3 premier.
Because of the state bidding
Units.
laws, we have to keep it an open spec, so the basis of design is an E1 spec, but Liberty and Barnes are acceptable as well.
Okay, any further questions or?
Who do we bill?
Sewer builds
Water
bills
bill?
water.
Sewer bill, yeah, that's.
Just a quick question on that, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about the sanitation end of it with the E1. When the treatment plant is actually functional, is there any other wastewater that has to be considered to be discharged anywhere?
The compliance analyzers will have a continuous flow of like 1/10 of a gallon a minute that'll get pumped through the E1 to the sewer system. Occasionally there'll be a backwash of the granular activated
Yeah,
carbon
that's what I was
filters.
getting at, something on that case.
That's kind of separate from this station. We're gonna have temporary tanks come in when the media is replaced.
But that's not gonna
yearly.
flow into the sewer system.
No, the intent would be to store that in a temporary frac tank and then discharge some of the clear water to the ground, like you'd be flushing a hydrant, and then you'd have to remove the fines off-site, but it wouldn't go to the sewer system
my
unless you
question.
wanted it to. You could pipe it to the sewer if the
Through
sewer,
the
if you want to, but
main process, is there any other water we have to worry
Back
about?
to see.
Okay.
Did you pursue seeing if we have to put the analyzer waste to the sanitary sewer?
we have to go 100 feet out of the zone 1 for the well 6 that's there. So it's a little bit more.
If it's non-contact, because there's no reagent, they use a reagentless analyzer.
Yeah, it's frowned upon from DEP. We've had.
I know it is, but they don't really have much of a case to argue against.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if that's something you guys want to pursue, we can still talk to DEP
I don't
about
know
it.
if there's any issue with capacity or how we're billed.
The problem is that we get ourselves in, all of a sudden they say, no, you gotta do it, and
I know, they're gonna say that, but,
Yeah.
I mean, you would have the argument that,
Kind of want them on our side,
I don't disagree. I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing it in other places where we've done it that way. It's not necessarily as simple as daylighting it. We'll have to get an underground injection permit if we do it the right way. So there's other permits from the state that
Just
we'll
get rid
need.
of it.
yeah.
So if it's easier to keep it in-house under your guys' control, we can always explore it later. It's something that it would be easy to redirect later if needed.
It's just that I know people say it's a tenth of a gallon a minute, but.
10th of a gallon a minute, 24 hours a day.
I can tell you, it adds up to a lot
Yeah.
more water than you think.
It's not trivial, but there's other permitting processes you'd have to go through to put it in the ground, and it'd likely have to be 100 feet away from the well, which is right next to the well, so it'd be a bit of a challenge with drain-wise.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion, we allow connection.
Second.
Okay. Kind of interesting if we refused it. But, okay, so motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay.
I'm still gonna hang around for a little bit longer, just in case some other treatment plant stuff come up, but
Okay.
More than welcome. You going out for supper after, you can join us too if you want.
I was expecting grill on Main from Douglas, so decided when I had to leave today.
Okay,
Hopefully they're open.
okay, update on easements. I know there was an email that came out today that the engineers, Ty and Bond, have been back and forth with the property owners, and it's moving forward. They're hoping to be completed beginning of February-ish,
End of January,
end of January.
I would think, hopefully.
And then move to, and then that would get it to council to actually draw up the legal pay for it.
In the works.
We're moving. Halleck, release of final payment for Schofield Ave PFAS blending. There is an application, a bill here for, the final payment, it looks like, is $23,588.28. That is, the retainage, I'm assuming. The only, well, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that's the retainage, but the last job he did on there, the asphalt paving, that was part of his work, right?
Right,
The top coat of pavement?
right.
That was a joint between the gas company and him.
But yeah, that was, that's
That was
this
done by
last.
another
That was part of,
outside.
That's
that was his obligation anyhow.
That was
So this is-
what the retainage was,
Yeah.
being held for, was to make sure that that got completed.
Mhm.
Now, have we been approved for, has the state signed off on that pavement?
No, I've been in touch with them
Okay.
several times, and they have not signed off yet.
I was gonna say, I would be hesitant to sign off on it if we haven't got DOT's sign off on that. If they come back and say that's no good, or, I know there's a rough patch coming right in front of the garage down there just before you get on New Boston, so.
Yeah, they could have a request, they want something else.
So,
On that subject, Jen, do you have a time frame for anybody from the state to fill you in?
No, they don't know when they're going to be getting out.
Really?
So every couple days I give them a call.
DOT is not the fastest
Yeah.
board to deal with.
no.
Do we want to hold off on this, or agree to sign it on contingent, get to hear from the state?
I don't think another month or two is gonna make a difference to not sign it. Let
I
him,
would say I would hold
let
off.
the- let the
Why don't you
state.
hold off
give
until
us-
this.
I'll vote against it, so.
I would,
Are we
would,
gonna make a motion?
I would feel much more comfortable holding on until the state signs off. I hate to hold up payment to any of our contractors, but we need to make sure that we're
Right is right.
held,
Yeah.
we're held harmless here.
So just one point to point out is that this is where, when you have the engineering oversight,
Yes.
this is where we rely on them to have a punch list or anything that wasn't done, or, they catch all that. None of us are out there inspecting the job to see if everything meets the standards that were in the contract, but, I know it costs a lot of money, and frustrates George often. But just one of those points to think about.
Table it to next month?
Yeah, we'll table it till the next month. Okay, number 7, 2023 budget discussion. I don't know if everybody saw, is everybody on the town email now? You're still not?
I am, but I don't remember my password, so.
Okay.
I've had nothing but trouble with it over my phone,
Okay.
back and forth between the other job, to tell you the truth.
Okay,
No.
so we'll,
Yeah.
we need to do something to get them up. But in any case, there was an email that came out with, from the town administrator, outlining the budget process. And he wants a first draft budget for January 24th. Jen and George and Brian have worked
Yeah.
to get us a very rough
Could be underneath the one.
guesstimate
Under your folder.
of the budget, what the budget request will be for next month. Yep.
Okay, I guess, Jen did say, we looked at, when we were looking at this, we said, I think the best thing to do is give an eyeball to it. Don't do a whole big kabobble right now on it. Take it home.
Kabako?
Lack of a better word. You know,
Spell that.
Yeah.
that's a technical term.
Yeah, you have to spell that for the minutes, yeah.
I'm watching for that one in the minutes.
She can spell that right.
Nope.
Okay.
Review it all, have your questions emailed to Jen so that we can work on those questions for the next meeting. Excuse me. And we can get some definite answers. This is a very complicated budget with all that's going on, with the unknowns that we've got, with the vessel and all that, things like that. We're trying to pin down things with better information. I have a few feelers out there trying to get some more information of cost, to, like, when we remove the material, all that stuff, like, all that kind of thing. So, kind of take a good eye at it, and this way here, we can answer those questions with all the best information we have for the time that we can present it to you back, instead of trying to hot shit out with information we don't have right on hand. Something to that effect might be more helpful.
Okay, and I would, go ahead.
Just a question on this, and only, I don't care one way or the other, but back when it was questioned last year with the selectmen, how they're reinstituted the stipends for elected officials, do we want to?
We can discuss that. We can discuss any of that. But what I was going to suggest, right along with what George is saying, is to take this. They can work on firming up some of the numbers. I like all of this information that we have to get from the treasurer's office. Right now, those are just estimates. My suggestion would be that we have another meeting before the 24th to just handle maybe
budget.
one or just budget, or or a very concentrated. Agenda.
How long do we get the numbers from treasurer?
Well, I mean, he's
If we don't get it by the 24th, they're not getting it.
I know.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I think it was, he was going to be a week or so, somewhere a week and a half, he was gonna have the information.
Okay, so the 24th is a Monday. That's 3 Mondays from now. So 2.5 weeks. Maybe the week of
The Wednesday before?
Martin Luther King Day, which would be, Wednesday would be the 19th. So that's 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from tonight. Do we want to try to post a meeting for that night?
I'll be available anytime.
I want to concentrate the budget, concentrate the agenda to that, very small, very short agenda, so we can concentrate on this.
Just one question, Mr. Chairman, when I look at the debt service, 955.
Yeah.
Are we sure we have the income to balance this budget? That's what we need the help of the treasurer, to see if our income is there to balance this budget.
We're right on the cuff. We're
We got
close.
some
like-
bills to pay.
Yeah.
We've expended.
Can I interject? I found, over the holiday, we actually found some TFAS storm response grants. So just want to leave these with Jenna. I figured I'd wait to the end, but just on the terms of income, the town might be eligible for up to maybe like 50 to 100,000 in grants from DEP for
Oh, you did.
costs already spent. So the interim water main that you installed, and then this new filter, they might be able to get some grant for either one or both of those projects. So.
Right.
We can look into that if needed.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Was
Okay.
there a cap on that? Because I thought it said $1
Yes.
million. Now, was that $1 million for the total to disperse through all the communities?
We just got over the Christmas break and delved into it a little bit. I think it's capped per system size and per round.
Okay.
So I think for this round, it's somewhere around like 50 to 150 per system, but then there should be more rounds. So you can submit for basically anything that we've spent to date that's eligible, you can get a grant for, and then if there's more later on, if there's other work, you could probably apply for it as well and get that reimbursed, so.
But since you're here, do you have a ballpark on the cost for the media change-out?
For just the media change out or the,
Like if it gets expended and we have to, just for budgeting purposes, we need to have a ballpark on
I
how
gotta
much.
call into my friend out in Geoscience. He's gonna be calling Hudson and that. He works well with them. I'll get a figure on that this week.
Because
That's what's part of my, that's part of his
Hudson's gonna have a much bigger system than us, so
yeah, off the top of my head, the one filter, I don't recall.
I heard a number.
I'm sure I can send it, I'm sure we have that. I've got quotes for.
So,
report.
by having a meeting 2 weeks from tonight, we can gather that. And in the meantime, any questions that anybody has with the way this budget is set up, and any questions, get them to Jen so that she can get them to George and Brian to be able to, and then they can have some firm answers for our questions for that meeting so that we can move things along.
Mr. Chairman, just to let everybody know, we've cut everything down where right now, we're in good shape for the infrastructure of the department. Equipment, trucks, normal operations. We're not going out and needing big ticket items right now. We did that earlier last year. I made sure we did everything we needed so that we could ride out this storm as best we can to keep ourselves, in the best possible shape. So that includes sewer too. So I think that way it's gonna help us there too. And don't forget, we're constantly doing what we can with the meters and all that. That's a priority. We're unfortunately, they're having a problem getting them, like anything else, but we're working on that too. But we're moving forward on all that.
Okay,
So, do we have available, like, you put FY 20, 21, 22, and proposed 23 budgets, but what you budgeted doesn't tell us much if we don't know what we expended during those years? You know what I mean? Because if we went over and you had to go to the Capitol to revise the budget, or to town meeting to get extra money, or, I think one of the problems is the last 2 years, we haven't had a meeting with a
Right.
budget to go over any of this.
right.
Did we develop
money
an Excel
back and
sheet
retained earnings.
on that, something like that? I don't think
Yes,
we
that's,
You could have put money back, you know?
That's what I mean, if we
Yeah.
put $500,000 back in
Yeah.
retained earnings, then.
I think we were always playing
factor-
catch-up, Bob, in a way, so we were always
Oh, I know we are.
trying to,
That's
but
why I'm trying to,
I'll see.
if we can kind of establish the
like
things
an
that
Excel
we need
sheet
to
on
see.
all the,
Yeah, if you just write next to this, the line items that you have, just
Yeah.
put what was expended for
Yeah.
that year, so we can compare, because, I mean, it might be that, you way under budgeted one line item and over budgeted another, and we want to adjust it to try to make it
Yeah.
as accurate as we can, so we can make the best decision on if we need to make
Yeah, we'll
cuts,
look
or.
into it.
okay, so are we in agreement with the 19th? Does that sound good to everyone?
Jen will send out a note.
So,
Same time?
post the meeting,
6:30?
6:30.
And then,
Go.
do we have retained earnings numbers? What's-
700, we're still in the 700,000 range.
That's between both departments?
That's, no, sewers are lower.
Yeah.
Sewers in the five, I'd like to say 5, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, so we have more firm numbers and,
I'm trying to keep those retains at the 700 level.
Yeah.
To
That's a-
show that we are using them for things that we
Well, that
need,
number's
but
low, I mean, I don't feel.
We used to be
comfortable.
over a million.
No,
Yeah,
no.
That number's too low in my opinion, but
We had to spend it.
we need to be able to balance a budget too.
yeah,
If it
and
means,
some of it we allotted just in case of unexpected, like we've had troubles with unexpected costs that we didn't see.
and with these numbers, is there capital items? Because I see you went from 50 to 100.
Yeah, we're trying to move a lot down into the capital range to have a little more playroom.
There's a lot of things that I believe, I had a conversation earlier that, some things you had in different line items,
We're trying to
that
straighten
should
those
be
out that should have
capital,
been
and
capital.
and that's why I'm saying, if we knew what was spent in each column, and we can kind of, because meters, radios, those should all really be in
And now we're trying to
capital.
condense it all into meter reading systems, keep all that together, radio reads, the meters, the this, that, that's one thing. In this way, because we're getting too much picking, different things that are in that should be down here, that should be there. So we're
Right.
still working on that.
But it's things like meters, hydrants, pipe, radios, all that should be in a capital line item. Because when you go to set rates, like if we wanted to change the connection fees, if we thought they were too low, if you compare them to other towns, the way you do connection fees, you typically have to look at your overall assets, your capital assets, your pipe in the ground, your buildings, your pumps, your wells, all that stuff that makes up your capital assets. And it's kind of structured based on the value of your capital assets, so you can't just say, yeah, we're gonna do a $10,000, for a 1-inch service. You have to have some justification behind it. And if you're not putting things that are capital, because a meter, a radio, pipe, hydrants, that should all last more than 10 years. And when you add it up as a whole, it's obviously over $10,000, so those items should be considered capital assets. Just for insurance and, like I said, for when you're overall looking at it, I mean, I know that the town probably doesn't look at it as much as we do, but if you look at the overall, the water sewer probably has the most assets within the town, maybe other than the school. Because if you factor in, I don't know do you know what the going rate is right now for a mile of pipe? Looks like the way we've been spending it's about $2 million. So
$1 million a mile.
I think it's closer to $2 million a mile
No,
if
yeah,
you actually
yeah,
look
it's
at the
gone up.
numbers, just because of the inflation and everything. But, if we've got 30 miles of pipe, that's $60 million right there. And then you look at, pump station, tanks, storage tanks.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I bet you overall, asset-wise, we're managing the largest portion of assets in the town. But people don't see it because half of it's under the ground and,
You don't think about it.
You don't have a big building to look at, but you factor in how much between meters, radios, and everything else, you're probably $500,000 right there too, so. But those are things that you need to kind of put together so we can show, and I think actually you guys will probably include a lot of that in the asset management plan. So we'll have a ballpark on that, but it's things that we want to factor in and account for. So like I said, they really should fall under a capital line item.
Okay, so we'll move the budget discussion.
Those are good points.
We got some good points so far.
What's
Yep.
in the ground?
19 January.
Did you want the grant discussion, did you want to talk about the grants at that
Oh,
meeting?
okay.
Or just,
Um,
because one of them is February 1st.
Yes, it's a very fast.
They come quick.
So-
So
You want me to put that on?
work
or-
those, well,
Or just have them start?
work them up,
We're working through that.
whether
Just
it's,
have to
whether
start
it's done,
implementing them, going
whether
out
it's
to
done
the
in
village.
our office or in between
Yep.
escorting prisoners. You can, and other things you can,
You know me.
work that, with.
I will say that grant was brought up within that committee to determine paying for the PFAS treatment and
Okay.
stuff. So we might want to check with them, so we're not duplicating. It really should have came through our
Should be,
department,
but
but
no, that's our
I just, like I said, I
responsibility.
noticed it was one of the
That's
emails that
our
went through
response,
that
they're not
committee.
gonna apply for a grant, that's up to us to do that.
Well, they could, but
Well,
it's a
they
town
should.
grant, but it would go towards the PFAS treatment.
Right.
But I'm just saying, if they're already going through the
If we don't
effort of
take the
filling out an
lead on it, we'll get
application,
done.
we don't want to duplicate efforts.
Okay, yeah, check with the corner office and work those, and you can give us an update in 2 weeks. Number 8. If and what rate increases will be, the rate increases. I know there was, in amongst the town emails, there was an email that came out of the corner office asking Ty and Bond to renew the rate study. And it had already been on the plate, and I believe we have it. In discussion with Jeff Faulkner, it was determined that we had already agreed in some other part of one of the other things that we were doing.
In one of the projects that was already approved, I think it's
Approved.
the treatment plant.
Treatment
In
plant.
the treatment plant project, part of that,
And
the funding
engineering
that we
costs.
approved was to update it based on the actual cost as opposed to the,
So they asked
Original
that
preliminary.
if that was originally scheduled to be completed sometime in January, February time period.
it was gonna start at the end
They
of
asked-
January.
They asked if we could, if it could be escalated. Ty and Bond has agreed, and they're gonna try to get that done, I believe, to present at our February 1st, the first week of February, whatever our meeting is. February 4th, something, 4th or 5th. 2nd, okay. February 2nd, February 2nd is our next meeting, so at the February 2nd meeting, I believe Ty and Bond is gonna have a presentation for us, for,
Big feet.
with our added income, with our revenue picture at this point, what we need to do for that. And I believe it would probably be a good idea to invite that subcommittee to attend that meeting as well, to,
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, it's our next monthly meeting, not our next meeting.
no, our next monthly meeting, yes, it would be the February,
What is that mean?
the February 2nd meeting.
Tomorrow.
So,
So that's in their hands for now.
it's, the rate increase, I think we'd be putting the cart before the horse to start discussing any rate change without having the most up-to-date data,
Agree there, yeah.
the most up-to-date numbers. Okay,
So, but that being said, if we're trying to figure out the rates for this year, do we have the revenues for, so I guess the same as the requesting the expenditures on these line items, can we get what the revenues were
Revenues were for those last 3 years,
for
yes.
each year, so that we can see that between the rates that we increased and kind of if we look at the original rate study to determine if we established what we were expecting for the increased revenue. Because, George and Brian and them have made great efforts in collecting unaccounted for, so, if it factors in and maybe we don't raise as much as we thought we had to raise, or, it's a discussion point whether or not we.
So we want that number
Keep-
two is the end, so,
Right.
I mean, what, each year what we didn't collect.
Yeah, I was gonna say, on that subject,
Well,
Bob,
that's-
you're gonna look at line item 10 now, what your accounts receivable are.
And
You
that's,
can-
that's my other issue, and that's one of my big issues
Yeah.
with not having that information, because I think the numbers that we saw was 175,000 for the last 2 years in a row that was not collected. So that's 350,000 that we're artificially inflating rates and making
Other
people that
pay.
pay their bills
Yep.
pay for the people that are not paying their
You're
bills.
penalizing those folks.
Right.
Okay.
So 9 and 10 go together.
8, yeah. 9 is accounts payable response from the treasurer and indirect costs, and we're still waiting on an opinion.
Yeah, 8 and 9, I should say, yeah.
On 9. We did get an opinion, again, another email from, and I believe it's actually in our packet. From December 21st, we got a response about the personnel question that came up. So review that and as far as what our responsibilities are and with the non-union personnel. That is there. Accounts payable response from the treasurer and direct costs. Yeah, we need that, need to be able to know what leverage we have to be able to get the information we need. But,
We did it for the budget.
and we need it for the budget.
Yeah, yeah.
So hopefully we'll get something back from council over the next couple of weeks.
Have we been in contact with them?
Yes,
I'll send an email asking where it should go.
okay. Okay, number 10, bill in owner's name or renter's name. Need to establish a policy. As I understand it, bills, when they go out in the name of the property owner. And we've got some property owners that are constantly calling to,
When they rent to someone, they come in and change it to the renter's name, and
Yeah, you can't do that because
They don't own the property, do
they don't own the property. We can't lien a tenant.
You
We
can't
can-
lean against the.
We can only lien the
renter.
property owner, and we want the notifications going to the property owner.
Right.
So that when we lien it, they're not like, what are you talking about? I didn't know I owed money.
No.
So,
we wanted to come to you just so we had,
we need to put that,
So
we
we can
need
put
to
a-
codify that.
official,
Jen, can you clarify, they come in and change to
well,
the
they
renter?
Yes.
attempt
The
to.
Who do they change it with?
they'll change, all the billing with all the offices, and they'll come in and they'll ask to change it with us.
On that
And you say
subject,
no.
At this point, we had someone disputing because there's no policy, this has been, and this is,
Okay.
supposedly this has been done in the past.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a written policy because that's a standard practice that
I
the town, only the town has the ability to place a lien on the property owner, and,
We
that's,
just figured if we brought it
yeah,
here, at
I
least.
agree, put it in
Does
writing.
that mean the renters pay their property tax too on the
no,
house?
as I say, I've had landlords
Can we-
put individual meters for each apartment so they can track the particular
But
tenant.
that's-
If
Right.
someone's wasting
But
or
that
letting
still goes to
someone-
that still goes to the landlord.
Right.
Right, we're still
And-
responsible for that meter coming in
And
from the
he
foundation
can-
wall.
He can put that in, he can put that on the rent.
That's up to
or
him.
That's up to him
Right.
to, how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, can we make that a motion?
Or-
Just to send
Yeah, we
the-
better, or a policy, you know?
Right, so I'll try to write up a policy for the February meeting.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
Just picture something like that, like in a large development, 32, 42 unit development. Someone
That's
gets away
not,
with
that's
it.
not gonna happen anytime soon.
No, if you have them, Like say down in Stonegate neighborhood, you got one building with 32 apartments in it. Can you imagine us chasing 32 apartments, water and sewer wise?
And
Yeah,
then,
no.
and then you think about it, you put a lien on it.
And they're
and then-
gone.
And then the owner can't repair a roof, and, you know, so that could just turn into a vicious cycle where we've got a lien on it, so they can't get a permit to repair a roof, and then the tenant says, I don't need to pay my rent because the roof's leaking, and you go to court, and the judge says, oh, you gotta fix this stuff, and he says, I can't fix it because there's a lien on the house, so.
We've been down that with apartments and condos in the past,
Okay.
always getting burnt.
So the bill is always in the property owner's name.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, no.
And
Should
yeah,
try that in my
but
car.
yeah, we can put that,
Draw that
put that
up.
and draw something up and have it for, to be able to, vote on it and sign it,
It's a get rich
you know,
scheme for the
for
landlord.
next week, for next month, for the February 2nd meeting.
Terrible.
Exception meters and how to proceed with the grandfathered exception meters. We have one in my father's house, so
So,
I'm in the process of taking it out.
Yeah.
Already
When-
taken them out.
okay, so on these exception meters, they get to a point where they're not reading anymore. So, do we charge they had to pay for the exception meter in the first place?
Mhm.
Do we charge them for another meter if they want it? Do we allow them to get another meter? Because we've done away with exception meters.
I wanna get away with these exception meters, like we said before. If they don't serve a purpose, with all the costs, putting them in, having them, tracking, it's just not worth it. And I think that's where we're heading for right now, is not to,
We're gonna have a fight with the town on the here. Because people they like the idea of filling their pool and not paying for the sewer.
finding out that the cost that they're saving is nothing, they're not really saving
It
anything.
doesn't matter to them if it's a nickel or a dime, it's the idea that they're not paying.
I mean, right now, we explain the situation to them and let them make a decision.
I have one, and, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
If I have one, and if I wanted to keep it, I would say, yeah, I'll pay for it. Pay for a new one.
But that's, yeah,
I mean, you know, we're explaining the situation to them. A lot of them are agreeing and saying, okay, just get rid of it or whatever. But, you know, I mean, I've got no problem either way, except, you know, we're just something that we're seeing is just not paying out to be a viable thing. But what is what it is. They want it.
But they're out there.
we're not allowing new
Well,
ones.
Yeah.
There are no new ones, that is
No,
correct.
we're not,
And if
yeah.
a house is sold, it does not transfer to the new owner.
Good point.
Okay, so, okay.
And
Eventually they'll go away.
And-
Yeah,
Every
it's-
house sells, yeah.
yeah.
And I can tell you that, like, this last reading we had quite a few that didn't read. And so the people, who, you know, we get in touch with it, and most of the people are like, well, forget it, I don't want another one. It's
So,
not saving me any
when
money."
you say it doesn't read,
It's dead.
so,
Which
then the
means-
reading didn't change, so you just say, all right, it's the same reading as last time, so your exception is 0, so. I don't care if they stay there and they die, just,
Yeah, they're.
you know what I mean, they're never gonna read fast.
No, but some people will come in and are questioning, and so we explain that, okay, it's, not okay, no problem, I don't want it anymore.
If we want to allow someone to keep one that they already have and it needs to be replaced,
Then they're gonna, we're
Yeah.
gonna replace.
the replacement cost is borne by,
So you.
The property owner.
But you need to establish what the replacement cost is, because
Right.
it's a new meter, it's
Time and
labor,
materials, yes.
you know, so you need to establish what it's gonna be to do that.
We don't put them in.
We should be putting.
We are putting them in.
Yes.
Put them in? Oh, okay.
Well, all you do is just break the union connections and
Well, yeah, you know that. You say always because you're a plumber, you
They have
know.
an existing meter.
But-
Not on the
I'm just questioning
Your
the ones
average.
that didn't read because it was so wet this summer and fall.
Nobody, yeah.
Are they bad, or they didn't water their lawn or water their
I didn't water my
flowers?
It's like regular
That's-
meters, it's
that's
the same
right,
thing,
you know.
you paid once for
I
it,
can
to
say,
have it.
if you allow
We're
them
requesting
to
that
put them in
Just
themselves,
one
We're
conversation.
requesting that be changed.
then they just put in a,
Make sure there's a T going to the toilet.
exactly, you just run another T back into your main line, put a valve in between.
Put the toilet and the kitchen sink on there too.
Yeah, no, okay, so
All right.
we'll need to put something together for that for next month. You know,
Mind reading?
we can pull together the cost, a list of the
Mind
costs. Figure what's the
Yeah, what's the logical
what's
thing
what's
to
the
do?
what is the average time it takes to change out a meter? What's it take, a half an hour, 45
No,
minutes?
no. It can take as much as 10 minutes. At most, if there's a problem where you really got moving material out of the way to get to it, now you could get into the 20 minutes.
Okay,
The
so-
maximum would be 30 if everything is going wrong and you
But
have.
what do you bill? I mean, you don't bill out at
Half an hour,
minutes,
no,
so
you bill
No,
it.
no,
you
it's
have a
just-
One
minimum,
hour.
a minimum
1
that
hour
you bill
minimum.
is a 1 hour minimum, I would assume.
An hour of,
Well, if you're making money.
of labor.
It also comes down to the liability. The guys are in the house working, they leave with something leaking and there's water damage, or a shut-off doesn't work, you know, it's, well, you were the last one here,
Yeah.
you know? You always have to face that.
That's why I tell them, make sure a homeowner's in there to watch you when you know, so that everything is good. Oh, yeah, we did it, everything's good, you know, so can't come back and say, yeah, you damaged that, or you
Yeah.
broke my chandelier, or
And
something.
it, personally, it's good to have you in there looking, because you could tell the homeowner, hey, that's bad, you should be thinking,
Well,
you know.
believe it or not, you know how many times we found plumbing that's been done wrong, but, you know,
Right.
done to their spec, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah.
they
Some
just-
pump pumping into the sewer.
Whatever, you know, we find a lot of things, and that's why it's a good thing to get into some of these and
Yeah.
see what we got.
But, yeah, whatever the cost
Need a miss in the head.
is, and, figure out the cost so that we can, you know, and materials, is there any material involved?
Meter,
Just the meter.
gaskets.
As we go
And gaskets,
forward for the
yeah.
next several months, they're inactive anyhow.
Right.
We'll be facing the issue by the time May or June
Yeah, we'll
rolls
be,
around.
yeah, in the spring when people
Yeah.
start popping their
Yeah.
pools open
Yeah.
again. Okay, so, we'll, address that again in February. Policies and procedures, I'll be honest, I haven't done anything with it.
So, one other thing that was.
Go ahead.
For the policy and procedures is, when you're working on the backflow.
Right.
If we could come up with, that, well, it's already, if a refusal for entry is a backflow, is an automatic backflow failure, but we also, if you have a failure, that we'd like to require a full site survey at the cost of the owner and plus one town employee to be there. And you guys could probably, I explain it, I just,
Yeah, so I mean, I could take a crack at that if you want, but, so, technically they have 14 days to repair a bad backflow preventer,
Right,
because it's putting the town at risk.
right.
So when owners don't allow you into,
This is all businesses,
Test.
correct, or is this?
no, it could be
it
residential
could be
too.
residential.
You've got anyone with a sprinkler system, irrigation.
Okay, all right, yep, all right.
Just anything that determines there's a risk to the water system is
Right.
supposed to have a backflow. So by law, or regulations say that we can't allow any more than 14 days to get it repaired. So if they're not repairing it, or they're not allowing access to either test it or, you know, have it repaired or replaced, then we're at risk, because we're not following the
So-
regulations. It's our responsibility to the furthest free flow.
Not allowing us to test because it's an automatic failure, okay, that makes sense.
Right, but
Yep.
within 14 days, they have to correct the
Correct the
situation,
situation,
whether
yeah.
it means let us in to test it or replace it or whatever you need to do. So if they don't, then, you know, my opinion is the water needs to be shut off, because you're really putting it at risk. If they're refusing to let you in, it's typically because they have something they don't want you to see. So, I mean, I've found plenty of people tapped into the fire services to, you know, bypass a meter because we don't have them on there. But,
Now, is this over and above, because we have a policy for shut-offs?
correct, so this would be, 'cause I don't think the shut-off policy specifically says anything about the backflow preventer
No, it's not.
portion, but if
So we
you,
want a separate policy.
this would fall under the backflow prevention policy. But
You're gonna
You
have
know.
that drawn up then, that's right?
that one's a little more involved. but-
Yeah,
In the past, how you made an appointment with them, has it been
I mean, you're
pretty?
talking like your schools, businesses,
I mean, did anybody
market,
call and just say?
Restaurants, yeah.
funeral homes,
Yeah.
those are your critical,
Thank you.
those are your critical
Thanks.
users. Well,
Yeah, I mean-
then you get your sprinkler systems.
Right, and that's,
I mean, we gotta give it
one of the
some
big ones for me
time.
is sprinkler systems. People look at it and say, well, it's just a sprinkler system. But
Next morning.
sprinkler systems are what basically created the backflow prevention regulations, because I forget what city it was, but there was a high-rise apartment building or a hotel that the chillers and got into, and coming off of the backflow, because the sprinkler systems sit there for a long time stagnant, and that's what causes Legionnaire's disease.
Yep, yep.
So if your backflow preventer fails and it
Doesn't fill it up.
back feeds into
Yeah.
the system, now you could spread Legionnaire's disease throughout the entire town. So it's just a big liability for us. And like I said, by regulation, we're responsible for that. So if we're relying on customers to do their part and let us in to test and inspect, like I said, typically, if they're not allowing you in to test it, it usually means they're trying to hide something. So in my opinion.
Do we know all the users that have lawn irrigation systems?
Well, we're supposed to. By regulation, we're supposed to have a list of all backflows in the town.
Yeah, we have our lists all together with the Toomey and with all the backflows, unless there's one that nobody ever saw, you know, that kind of.
That's what I mean.
Right.
But
so-
I want to also make sure that when we're out making appointments, some issues that come up about making appointments and then they're not sticking to them.
We don't make appointments for backflow.
Well, certain businesses, security-wise and COVID-wise, you kind of have to give them some warning so that you're escorted through properly or whatever, so that's been one of the problems.
We've only had that, it's the one particular.
The one
business.
particular
And
business,
even the
which-
business that deals with government things lets them in without an appointment.
Right. I was gonna say, that by law, we have a right-of-way. They can't say, oh, you can only come in on this day or that day. We have a right-of-way to access the meter and backflow devices for that purpose. And if they say, oh, well, you can't, you have to follow our rules to do that, well, we can say, well, you gotta follow our rules when we shut your water off, and once you let us in to test it, we'll come back and turn you on.
They use certain things like the COVID and other dangerous.
And we can follow any protocols for COVID and backflow preventers. It's not sitting next to the receptionist desk, so, they're in the basement. There's no need to be exposed to anybody. We don't want to get our operators sick any more than they want us to get any of their employees sick, so it's a simple process to deal with
Yeah,
the whole.
we're responsible for that water.
Yeah. So, that's a simple workaround, but like I said, ultimately, we're responsible for that water, and if we're not testing it, and if it goes beyond 14 days, then you're in violation, so.
How often do they have to be tested annually? Annually
RPZs
or-
are twice a year,
Twice a year?
double checks are once a year. But does Toomey do the backflow testing? So I'm assuming they schedule to get into these places anyway. No, they don't make any appointments?
Did you show up, jump in the truck with Brian or whatever and go?
Luke, whomever,
One of our guys goes with them as a representative for the town.
and there's, out of everybody, there's only one that.
So this came up because of one customer?
Yeah.
Without-
We're still not getting in?
Well,
Are
like I said, if it's been more than 14 days, we should be shutting them off, because by law, we're responsible for
Do you
that.
have to give, I'm curious, because I don't know, do you have to give a notice to shut off, or do you just shut off?
Nope,
Just curious.
it's by rule, you have 14 days to fix
Hazardous
it,
condition.
right,
Call tomorrow and say it's either now or never.
It's now or off.
It's now or off.
like I said, if you failed them, you had to give them notice that they failed, and they have 14 days from the date of failure to address the situation. If they don't address it, we shut the water off.
Is this a failure or just lack of entry?
Lack of entry, which is a failure.
But lack of entry
It is an automatic
equates
failure.
And
automatic
it's been
failure.
14 days.
It's, yes.
Okay.
Was there an incident there that was, something had to be corrected? I don't remember on that one. Or we just haven't got in there yet to
We
look at it?
haven't, we were not allowed entry. We called today and we received no response back.
George, you go tomorrow,
But
you can't get entry, you go
Well,
tomorrow
Toomey-
afternoon and shut the water off.
will
It's
Toomey
simple
come
as
out,
that.
will Toomey come out for an individual call?
He should, we'd have to call Toomey in the morning to
I
see
mean,
what
you
his
gotta
thing is, that's the
make sure
big thing.
he's gonna come out for an individual service call, you know?
Yeah, well, they're gonna pay for it. If
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what-
Toomey is aware of the situation.
Yeah.
We spoke, because they did the original letter
Oh.
and they were in touch
We
with
can't,
us.
we can't allow this, because
Right.
As is explained by Bob, like I say, we have to protect that water.
Okay, is this a business or
so
a
can you,
residence?
Can you get to me to go tomorrow? And
We'll call in the morning.
if you don't get in tomorrow afternoon, you shut it off. Simple as that.
Okay,
Okay.
learn something new every day.
Yeah, we need to get back onto the policy, with everything else going on, dealing with policy handbook is,
Every time we turn around, there's
There's been-
something coming at us.
has been,
They come out of left
Well,
field.
but
we
yeah,
get
it would
the
be
big
nice to
bucks.
get, it would be nice to get that,
Jay.
get
That's
that
why we
back
get the
on.
big bucks.
Yeah, but I said that policy book is gonna be this thick pretty soon.
Yeah, if we can,
But
get
like I
back
said,
on
every
it.
time we turn around, someone's throwing a curveball at us.
Yeah.
Okay. Moratorium and water ban, okay. We can bypass that, it's just a placeholder.
Just a quick question to
Right.
George on that. How's your pumpage in this weather?
Right now, we've been, both PFAS and pumpage has been good. We've kept right where we should be. Everything has stayed right in the same parameters.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah,
safe.
You know,
What's the
and
count
I'm
on
waiting
PFAS?
on this, of course.
And you're keeping the tanks filled?
Yeah, everything is, we've been very lucky
Good,
because,
good.
you know,
I mean, you know.
yeah, from
school-
summer on.
Yeah, yeah.
What have the numbers been like? The rate, what's the PFAS number range?
10 something, 10-4, I think was the last one.
Okay,
Yeah, it was-
good.
I can't remember, like, we just got the last one in, it was,
Good.
I think it was like 10-4, 10 something.
Okay. Review of Thursday night office hours. Okay, since the selectmen said that they wanted to keep the town hall open on Thursday nights, all offices throughout, since just before Thanksgiving. I've done Thursday nights. I will say that on the third floor, I've seen 2 other people here during that time period.
Every week?
Well, actually, no, not every week even. The planner was in one night when I was here, and every other time it's been Nelson. So I see Nelson, I hear from Nelson, I talk to Nelson, and other than that, every other office is closed. The selectman's office, the door is open, the gate's shut down, but the door is open, but more times than not, the selectman that's here is in a meeting somewhere, so they're not actually in the office. To me, my opinion still stands the same. It's not necessary for us to be open on Thursday nights. We can be open via appointment. We can set up appointments at any time to meet with somebody if they really need to meet off hours. But there's just no, I've gone down to the second floor and half of the offices are shuttered down there.
But what is there that would be conducted on a Thursday night without George or Brian or
Jen?
anyone else? I mean, if you were in the office, what is there that you could do for a customer that you can't do either through an email or a phone call during the day because you can't approve a new connection, that has to come before the board. You can't approve an abatement, you can't, there's nothing that you could do.
Supposedly, remember, I think I told you, supposedly, I'm not gonna say where it came from, but if your time is limited and you have, you come home late, and you wanna get some business conducted at the treasurer's office, or regarding a bill that you have questions on because why is it so high? Well, now I can go from there and go up to the water department office and ask her to pop it on the screen as to where what's my usage been, or, that kind of thing was brought to my attention.
Right, so that can be handled through an email or a phone call, and I would rather have a document trail on something like that than a verbal communication between someone that's sitting in a building alone. First, I would see it more as a personnel risk, that you get some irate customer that comes in after hours, and I've come up to there when you were up sitting there, and there is nobody else there, so.
There was one week I was here, I was the only person on the third floor,
And I know-
other than the people that were in the selectmen's meeting room.
Right, and I know that you've got cameras at the end of the thing, but if they go into your office the cameras aren't gonna see that, and yet, do you have a panic button in your office?
Yeah, it's up on the front
Oh,
corner.
It's up,
It's very conveniently located.
Yeah, in other words.
it's not in the desk.
In other words, you gotta get past them to hit it,
Yeah,
yeah.
so they'd be at
Excuse
me
me.
before I could get there. So,
So I see it more as a risk to the person that we
And
have.
it just for payroll, our administrative assistant is far more efficient being here during the day, during the daytime hours when the crew is working, when contractors would be coming in, when other offices in the town hall are open, than sitting here for 2 hours waiting for that 1 in 1,000 person to come walking in to ask a question.
Mr. Chairman, you said you've been here since
I have been here
Thanksgiving.
for
Thanksgiving.
Thursday nights, Thanksgiving it was closed. There have been a couple of nights when the town hall was closed,
question-
but
my
on the nights that it was
my-
open,
my-
I was here.
He looks
Question,
good
Mr.
in the
Chairman.
skirt though, by the way.
Mr. Chairman, have you had any visitors? Have somebody questioned?
Not a one.
Okay, that's the answer right
Like
there.
I said, I've talked to Nelson.
Can we write up a
More than
letter
anything
and
else.
just send it to the selectmen saying, since the time frame, we've had no visitors on Thursday nights, and we feel it's a waste of man-hours?
Waste of resources.
Were they gonna evaluate this?
They're supposed to reevaluate the whole process.
they have a
And,
meeting Monday night.
huh?
They have a meeting this coming Monday.
Monday?
And I think it's supposed to be on it.
Okay,
If we get them a letter beforehand?
Absolutely.
it's either come to the selectmen's meeting or watch WWE, so I'll come to the selectmen's meeting. There's nothing else happening on Monday nights, so.
Better than WWE.
Sometimes. So, yeah, I mean, it's, if they're gonna review that, then can certainly be here to speak on it. Administrative assistants performance review. I came in during a day off. It was during shutdown, I believe. And I asked Jen about her review, what her review, the status of her review was with George. And she gave me a copy of it, and I asked her to send it out to the rest of the board for review and input. And then in reading it, I noticed that there were a whole bunch of bullet points, and I asked where the bullet points came from. And they came from her job description. So I said, can I have a copy of the job description? So she gave it to me, and it was, it did say draft on the top. I unfortunately left that folder at home again.
I apologize, I didn't print the job description.
You didn't, but that's fine. Town of Dudley, Massachusetts, draft job description. And I read through it. I thought I read it fairly completely, but pointed out at the beginning that in her job description is an example of danger of physical attack when escorting or monitoring female prisoners. I don't know that that would ever
What are
be.
you doing that, on a side job?
You know me.
What it looks like is it's a
I've been using too much.
cut and paste of very general job bullets. It was created, I believe that was created by the consultant that was hired to do the payroll study. And adopted by, I guess, the Board of Selectmen. But this is the first time I had seen this, so I asked that she send it out, and with the note that was with the email was my words, with her typing. Basically to review it for input. Go ahead.
To the chair. I did go through it, and just some of the things I'd like to make a comment on are under the judgment paragraph. There's no comment in here at all that talks about independent judgment. And that's very conveniently left out. And this is a buzzword, that phrase that they don't want in there because it costs you more money when somebody has exercised independent judgment. And it goes into very clear words of regulations and follow this and follow that. That's bullshit. You're talking about a person who has to interpret the rules and regulations and make an independent judgment. And that should be in her job description. Because otherwise, she should be doing nothing and passing everything on her desk to us
Or to
or
To-
to
the
Joy.
superintendent, right?
We don't want that.
No, I mean,
You know, it could have been, Bill, it might have been an oversight on that one. See, the problem with this whole job description, it's not fit for this department. It was constantly repetitive.
I can tell you how he did this. He has a bunch of paragraphs, and he pulled paragraphs down off
Yeah.
those and plugged them in. And he pulled the paragraphs down from either a correction facility or the police department, and that's why she's got a paragraph in there about escorting prisoners and female prisoners.
I think you can take them.
Absolutely.
But a lot of those,
Kick him in the knee.
But under things like complexity, again, it talks nothing about the complexity of the job.
you know, see, that was the worry of overdoing it because we don't know where that's going to. It didn't pertain so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other stuff did mention, does fall into her judgments and her capabilities.
And,
And then in the work environment, and I'll just throw this in here because I wrote this down, it's at no point at anything else does it mention the fact that she might encounter an angry customer. Somebody who's dissatisfied with the billing process or whatever. That's part of the job. And there's a risk involved in when you're handling disgruntled people. And you're the first line of defense.
in reading the job description, because her job mostly, 90% of her, or a good percentage of her job is
Keeping the
taking
customer-
taking care of the day-to-day operation of our systems. The only mention of our board is to attend our monthly meetings. So when I asked her, I stepped in and I asked her to send out an email by that job description, that's not part of her job.
And then when it says.
So by the job description, she's here in support of the full-time employees, but there's no mention of any support for the commissioners and their functions. So I just think it needs to be more tailored to our department. I don't know what's
How do we change it?
It's the template I think the town's using now, basically.
Under
Very
education
difficult.
experience, it says that she's supposed to have an associate's degree or journeyman's level of grade now. I think that's BS. I don't think associate's degree is required. A commercial secretarial
Yeah, are you gonna put the other,
administrative,
that's,
you ought to know Excel and that kind of stuff. You don't have to have an associate's degree to do that. That's an overstatement there, I think. Well, that's the way.
I really believe it needs to be tailored. I don't know what's,
I agree, I mean, they can give us a format to follow, if this is their standardized format, but the content should be more derived from our.
and I believe this is, the opinion on this, is backed up, I believe, by the opinion that we got from town council about personnel issues, about what are our responsibilities and what is our authority where the superintendent and non-union employees, which basically is the superintendent and the administrative assistant. So we did get that opinion back. I don't know, I'd like to be able to sit down and go through that job description like we did
The other ones.
a couple of years ago with
Superintendent.
the superintendent's job description, we sat down and went through it, line by line, and cleaned up a whole bunch of stuff and
We
and
got
made it
and,
more.
Rewrote it and just passed it on to personnel.
Can we request that they provide what format they want? Like I said, we can follow their format, but the content and what's in there should be based
We could
on
follow-
our needs.
We could follow the document format right here and just put our own fine print.
Exactly, but that's what I mean, just out of respect for that department, let's request their format, but we'll fill in the blanks.
Okay.
That way, if they're trying to go to a standard format, then we can follow the format, but let's make it so it meets our needs and,
I know that the superintendent's position was not considered in that study, other than saying what scale, what, level 3? Or are you level 3 or level 2? Level 4? 4, level 4. Other than saying what level it's in, it didn't, they didn't consider the superintendent's position at all.
did we ever establish what his rate would be? We did his performance review, but I don't think we ever
I played
established.
catch-up that first year. I had to play a lot of catch-up on, there's a few factors that. the
No,
town
we
administrators
didn't,
able to-
we didn't set a pay rate.
No, we were waiting for this.
We were waiting for this opinion.
The
and-
opinion, so the opinion was that we set that rate as long as we budget for it.
That's right, as long as it fits within the budget and
Comparable. to
subject to pay range established in the town's classification and compensation plan. Within existing appropriations and subject to the pay range established in the town's classification and compensation plan.
So do
We
have
we
that-
couldn't pay him the same, we couldn't pay him $130,000 because it's way outside the range, pay range, but,
So do we have a copy of the compensation range?
we do have that, it's in the office.
So if we have that information, should we make a point to kind of establish what that is? I mean, I think it was November is when we were supposed to make a
Right.
decision on it, right?
Can we get that for February? The only question is, if we raise it, is there money in this year's
Well,
budget?
Yeah, we've
We're
allotted.
gonna have a budget meeting on the 19th. I think that should be included in the budget meeting because it's part of the budget.
That's true.
Agreed.
Yep.
So I would add
Put
it
the cart
to,
before the
Can we,
horse.
add that to the budget meeting. And
okay.
I would
Now,
say,
that was my original thought, but then, do we wanna, I don't wanna get that meeting to be,
no, but it's part of the budget. We
Yeah.
can't establish the budget without knowing what those projected costs are gonna be.
Okay.
So we need to really look at it both for the current fiscal year,
Continue salaries
from
go
November
down.
till
the
June
union,
30th.
the union contract will dictate what we're doing with
the
the
other
employees.
Right, but I'm saying for his, we
For
need
the
to be able to
superintendent,
factor
the
in what
administrative
his-
assistant, we need to be able to,
establish what those two
Establish
rates
what-
are, and, but we need to establish both, because that, I'm not sure what your anniversary date, or July 1st, so yours is an easy one, but his is
this is, yeah,
mid-cycle, so we need to factor half the year at the existing rate and half the year at the
Mhm.
rate that would potentially be approved.
okay. Okay. So we'll, okay. And superintendent's report.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah,
The only things that I wanted to bring up on this report, I'm sure everybody's looked at everything, was some questions I had. Number 12 down to number 14. These are now turning into change orders and possible expensive change orders due to lack of proper information when the architectural plan was put out for this building. So my question is that who's gonna bear the brunt of these costs for these change orders, for what needs to be fixed? The big one's gonna be the plumbing, the redoing of the plumbing or not, or whatever, and then they're handling it. But already we've got into a situation with the SCADA, I think it was, I thought maybe it was 3,000.
Yeah, no,
That
that's,
7 was wrong.
that number was cut down to, the SCADA change order was cut down to, I wanna say it was $2,400.
Yeah,
That was last month.
yeah.
That came up in last, actually, it should be in the last month's meeting minutes.
Did we run these by the engineer?
Actually,
I haven't
no.
got all the facts because the stairwell just came to me the other day that can't be, wasn't able to be put in properly because the wall, between the old wall and the new brick side was not enough for the anchors to go through. But they came up with a plan to at least be able to start mounting it. But I still have to find out exactly if there's any change order that came with that, any costs, and also if it was done to spec or has to be redone over when they get an idea where they're going with that. But they needed to get the stairwell put in somehow because you can't work off of scaffolding, people going in and out. So that was the one thing. The other thing is I don't know where the plumbing situation's gonna go. That's a whole big expensive matter. Because there's the debate about, it's a temporary situation there in that station. It's not gonna be a long-term station for treating water or whatever. It's just temporary. Do we need to put a home, grinder type injection pump in there for sewer or that when we just got an eye wash and a couple safety things going on in there, So I'm not gonna get into the whole logistics of it because that's being worked out by the engineer, but I'm just curious to see who is gonna absorb if in fact, even $2,000 or $1,000,
Right.
why should we be absorbing that change order if something wasn't done properly with the engineering aspect of it? That's my only question. I just wanna keep you guys,
You know what my take on that is, Judge, from what I've been involved with? On Ty and Bond's end, I don't know, they're big on infrastructure work. I don't think their engineers are versed on building code, construction.
They should be.
And building code.
that's right, they should be.
They should.
And typically, I've done a lot of file sub-bid job, and it's a separate mechanical engineer that draws the blueprints up for the plumbing, the heating, the electrical, the HVAC. I don't know if their staff is qualified. And the way this all transpired, obviously that job went out into the central register for the people to bid it. This plumbing contractor, that's all he does is filtration plants, water and sewer plants. His man got on the job, and he called me and started asking a million questions. My assumption is the plumbing contractor threw a bid, just threw a number out and was awarded the low bid, figuring once I get on the job, that bid is invalid because now this job has to come up to specs.
So,
And that's the game that's
We should
being,
have spec'd it out already.
and that's the game that's being played, inferior specifications for the bidding process.
but that's where, and that's what I used to do when I was doing contracts all over the state, actually all over New England. We would get proposals and go through them and say, all right, 1 change order, 2 change order, 3 change order. All right, we can bid this for, where we're losing money because we're gonna make it up
We're
in
gonna make
change
it,
orders.
we're gonna get it back on change
So we'll get the
orders.
bid and we'll get at least 5 change orders out of this, that's gonna make it profitable. We used to do that all the time.
So my
We had
assumption
crews
is
that just sat there and looked for change orders.
That
I mean,
firm looked at those bids, said, these are inferior, I'm gonna bid it at this price, and I'm gonna get it all back.
Right, so my question is, these have to get submitted to the building department to get approved.
Correct.
So do they not question those during that process?
Did Nelson get those, the blueprints on that building?
We don't know.
I know, I never did.
That was on the engineer's hands.
I
But I
never
would-
saw anything on the plumbing end. and
He never
I don't know-
questioned me. The fire chief did say something about the fire alarm system for the treatment center, but nothing on Station 1.
Right, so, that process, you have to get a building permit, right? So when you go through the building permit process, there has to be submittals that get approved by the building inspector. Whether I don't know if he goes to you for every set of plans, or if he just looks at them himself and approves it. If they were approved through the building inspector,
I know all fees will waive for building fees, so I don't know.
That's common,
So
but-
I don't know if that even once they were waived, if they went to the building inspector's office.
So that's part of the problem, and I've run into that in other towns as well. Well, you're not paying me a fee, so I'm not putting any time into reviewing these plans. But if they approve the plans, it really falls on the building inspector's lap that you approved the plans as presented. He should have commented on that and said, oh, well, this doesn't meet plumbing
But
code, if that was the case.
On that particular job there, there's really nothing structural, right? So I don't know if the building inspector would be involved with it to that depth, because there's no structural, no bearings, no footings, no
Right, but-
walls, no real construction.
But I know even doing a small, no structural stuff, like, we ripped out sheetrock and, you know, once you do that and they say, oh, you disturbed more than 2 sockets now, or, you know, 20 or 30% or whatever it was, now you have to upgrade all the electrical to meet
Yeah,
the code.
yeah.
So they look at that, they have to, I mean, it's part of the process.
All I
So-
know is this particular firm is in there, and the kid that was on the job is pretty sharp, and he picked up on everything immediately. And when I had the meeting down there, Dan Foss sent a rep, and he told me he's a licensed plumber too, and he agreed to everything we spoke about. The man from Dan Foss that has a license, and the plumber was there. And the people went right through the building, you know, the water pressure coming into the building, the size of the water main coming into the building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They
But
had
that's what I mean, but like, if you go to replace a plug in a room, you know, if you're not disturbing more than a percentage, there's standards that say, if you do up to this, you don't need to bring it up to code, but if you
no matter,
disturb more than a certain percentage, or,
on this end of what they're doing there, they're still obliged to follow the state plumbing code. No different than an electrician is obliged to follow the state electrical code. You
But
can't,
is
you
it-
can't take wastewater and let it sit on the floor. It's gotta be contained and go somewhere. You know, someone pulls the eye wash station.
What?
You don't let
Okay.
you,
I think an eye wash station, you can legally just dump on the floor.
but there has to be a floor drain for it to be swept to or something.
I don't know about that, because most of our.
Yeah, they're emergency only.
In water treatment
You know?
plants, most of them are in the containment areas.
Well, they have a
where-
basin area, and it was just brought up that there's a hand sink down there too, right? For testing, for washing.
It's just a drain.
It's more of a funnel to
Funnel
catch.
type.
Well,
yeah.
To get water
I
to
think
go to
that
the right
print
place.
showed a sink with a faucet on it too.
Well, if it has a faucet, that's one thing, but if
I
it's.
think they have a
if it's-
funnel with a, they're going to be a funnel with it, just a.
Unless they redesign it, but it still came to the point, where's
Okay.
the water going?
Right.
It's gotta go somewhere.
We're getting back to
You
I
know?
think the engineer should,
Well,
Answer
the
to
the
it.
thing
We'll have to
is,
see how this all pans out.
Yeah.
what
it's-
happens, what happens with a change order, that they'll bring the change order.
It's clearly a case, Scott, of, like Bob mentioned, the contractor looked at it, he says, I'll bid it at this fee, and I know.
I'll get the
something,
job and I know where I'm making the money.
And I know what I can do.
No, they're gonna go for
Yeah,
change orders,
yeah,
and we have to trust that our engineers will,
But in the
We'll fix that.
conversations on the
We'll-
job, the engineer that's on the job down there has no idea of mechanical
Yeah, he's
in a
not
building.
a,
PE.
They-
He could be a PE, but he's not
right,
mechanical.
he could be a PE, but usually engineering firms the size of Ty and Bond or larger have a mechanical, a
Mechanic.
plumbing, and electrical engineer that all review the plans and say, all right, this is what you need.
And I
So-
didn't see, myself, I didn't see the blueprints to see what type of engineer stamped it, you know?
Yeah, it'll be the
That wouldn't have
general
been
PE that's
something I would've
overseeing.
looked
It was probably Jeff that stamped it,
But
but
usually there's a,
Yeah.
the electrical sheet, the HVAC sheet, the plumbing sheet, you follow me? Each sub-trade has their own set of specs.
but in
blueprints.
any case, yeah, any change order is gonna come before us to accept or deny.
I think the engineers dropped the ball on a lot of that, in the building. Like I say, the SCADA, the steps, the plumbing, it's like, where were you?
well, some of
Some of
that,
the
I mean,
other
I,
incidents
Some of
too.
it, some of it I think is unforeseen.
right, to answer his, I guess this was your question, you know, some of those, like knowing whether or not the wall was structurally there to,
Yeah.
you know, we're not gonna, the engineers aren't gonna go drill holes in
Yeah.
walls to see if it's gonna
No.
hold up. I mean, that's not their
No.
thing, but.
They drilled holes on Mason Road
But,
for the water main.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, that's, I mean,
The
any,
SCADA.
change order is gonna have to come before us anyways, in order to be accepted.
But the SCADA, some of that change was based on, I believe Brian had requested changes on that after the fact.
The spacing where it was and the possibility of coming down by the stairwell, it stuck out too much. People were gonna trip on it, hit it, all that. It just, that was an easy one. That, they can't get out of that one. That was something that was right there, measured out, you know what you got. And that was, so that's the other thing, went under the stairs again, everything got pushed.
But is this separate from the SCADA questions that we had when the new SCADA people came in, Erickson, and then I think Brian wanted to change where the main hub is? I believe they were talking about moving it over to the new treatment plant. Is that part of that?
No,
Or is this something
no,
completely
No,
separate?
something separate.
It's just, there was enough space along the wall, and it was gonna be in the way.
Yeah.
I guess the only question I had on your report was the Susan Drive stuff.
Susan Drive was
It looks
cambered
like
by
you found
us.
something?
Yep, cambered by us, went in there, we traced it to the pipe coming from the property at 16. So at that point, it became the homeowner. She,
What kind of a pipe?
regular plastic pipe,
No,
standard.
I mean, water pipe or? is it-
Sewer pipe. It was coming, the sewer pipe had infiltration.
Okay.
Coming in from their line,
Their
somewhere
line.
on their pipe, coming
Okay.
into our pipe. Okay, the camera caught it right at the
But
elbow.
they haven't found the source.
They found the sources, there was a broken pipe, so when they did the water.
Broken, what kind of pipe? Broken water pipe?
Broken
Lateral.
sewer lateral.
Broken sewer
Coming out of
lateral.
the
So,
ground.
so a sewer lateral is pouring water into a sewer lateral?
No. They have a sewer lateral coming, attaching to our sewer line, our
You have a
main.
sewer
Right,
main,
okay.
and then the lateral goes from the main, from the.
Yeah, I
Constantly
get
running
that, I
fresh
get that.
water.
Yeah,
Or-
where is the fresh water coming from?
From the infiltration from the outside groundwater.
High water
It's
table.
just
High water
groundwater.
table, yeah.
Okay, it's groundwater,
Yeah.
okay. So I was led to believe in the beginning that wasn't that it was,
Water
there was so
service.
much of it that it couldn't be groundwater.
Yeah, no,
But, okay,
we
so
shut
it's
down the
groundwater.
main on both sides of the street and made sure that we were down, and it was still coming in like
So there's
heavy.
probably some kind of a, the same thing over near where my father lives. There's an old
That whole hill's got,
spring back there
This-
somewhere that's just flowing in.
yep,
It's found its way into so the sewer lateral needs to be repaired?
yep. It was
And-
probably crushed when they did the water main, they put the water service in, and they probably did some damage to the pipe, didn't know.
So when was this found? And
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and what's the timeline for repairing it?
Slims is doing the work for her. I talked to Gabe, he's trying to schedule it as soon as possible, but there was some other things that he was.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
January,
Yeah.
I get it.
George,
but-
sorry, you done?
Yep,
The last meeting, Fairfield about easement. Number six.
All set, it was all good. There was their easement right to it, so no, thanks.
oh, you're talking about the
The guy, the pump, sewer pump.
Yeah,
sewer, yeah,
yeah, there was an
That's-
easement, I got the plans for it, there was an
Okay.
easement right
that's
there.
Fairview,
Thanks, Pam.
Fairfield,
A
yeah.
lot of fingers.
And if they,
Yep. Yeah,
no,
The-
that's separate.
the easement runs right up to their property line, and the manhole is right there, so they can cut right into it.
Are they still okay with Bud Drive on that 22nd? I think it's the 22nd,
It's supposed to be tomorrow,
tomorrow.
Thursday.
What's that? Maybe she does.
Okay,
He hasn't told me anything different.
the zero turn, you got quotes for,
I didn't bring them with me, but I did get
okay.
a couple quotes, 3 quotes. The lowest one was out in Burrville, Norfolk Power Equipment,
Mhm.
$14,000 some odd dollars. One was 17, and another one was higher, even 15 or something like that. And they were all the same mower, Kubota, zero turn. There were 3. One was Chapel out in Milford, New Hampshire, which is a big outfit.
Mhm.
Norfolk was the
Oh,
other
they're
one,
all-
and Ahern was the other one, and Norfolk was the cheapest.
Yeah,
Same lawnmower, mulching kit and everything, and so I'll have to get them for next time.
Okay,
Is it available?
Oh, they're gonna order them. I actually, without you guys seeing it, I can't put a request for approval by the board, but, I wanna put an order in real quick, because by the time we even get close to getting
It's
it,
not in stock now.
yeah, I can't even see one. I have to go by pictures and past viewing.
So do you need a vote to move forward on it?
I would like one, I mean, I've got the material, I just didn't have, I don't have it with me, but,
But you're saying that you got 3 prices on the same machine.
Same machine.
Everything's the same,
everything's the same.
and we know it's not gonna exceed 15,000, what's?
This one was 14 and some change, that was the lowest. That's, and I don't have the exact figure with it, but it was under 15. And that
Okay.
was the winning,
And do we have that budgeted for?
yeah. We
Oh.
got the
Number
money.
8 on the sewer report. Fairfield. 6 Fairfield is tied in.
So do you want a motion to approve purchasing the zero turn? Are we in agreement for that, or?
What do we have for,
We got money for it, and then right now, if I can get approval by the board, it would allow me to get that order put in, so we can have it for at least.
That's my concern is, like,
Fine,
I ordered 2 generators that have taken over a year to get. I'm not expected to get one until October of next year, and I ordered it in April of this year.
okay. Yeah, I know, it's just, I think
Which
they're,
line
I
item
think
is
they're,
coming out
now that the whole supply chain thing has come up, I think everybody's using that as an excuse
Yeah, I think
to
it's-
put stuff off. But in any
Which
case-
budget item is it coming out of for that payment is what he was looking for.
Oh, capital's gonna come out of capital budget.
You got enough, there's enough in there?
So I would make a motion to approve the purchase of the Kubota zero-turn diesel tractor, not to exceed 14,000, going by the procurement laws.
14.5, not to exceed 14.
Not 15, I'll say not to exceed 15,000, just
15, yeah.
for the, to meet the lowest bidder.
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
We doing the other one, keeping it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That can be used for the sewer guys if they have a problem, or us if we have a problem. That's still a good tractor, but it's tired. It's done its thing.
Until it becomes
Cost prohibitive.
inefficient to repair.
Yeah.
You know, if we're spending more money to repair it, then.
Once you get into the engine, you sunk yourself into an expensive ship.
Okay. So anything, I don't believe, any other comments from,
Just the Barbado, have they taken care of issues over there that you were concerned about? I know that. have we
The
put-
security is a nightmare over there.
So I didn't drive over there recently, so I
I-
don't, is there a fence up yet?
Scott-
I stopped today on my way home from work, pulled up, okay, it looks good from the street, and I walked around the building. The pipe from the pump into the building is exposed. They've got it wrapped with some kind of tarps, but it's exposed, and that's a big hole. And there's a trench with a trench box in it wrapping around the corner of the building. It looks like it's gotta be at least a good 8 to 10 feet deep. And it's just covered with sections of fence, are just laid over the top of the trench. It's wide open.
So who issues a trench permit?
Fire department.
I don't know.
We're grandfathered in on any projects the water department has. And to tell you the truth, there hasn't been many issuing of trench permits or reviewing that, and I don't know
Yeah.
what happened with that. It was kinda killed back years ago.
But who's responsible for that?
Fire
trench?
department.
But who's is that operated under our kind of open
It's on our
permit, I'll
property.
say? But, yeah, but if there's a contractor
The
digging,
fire
they're the ones that
department
should be
was
getting-
approved, every time when that first started, we were always approved for each individual thing, but now,
You have a
what happens,
blanket
we were
trench
open-ended.
permit.
We were given an open permit for whatever, because in the middle of the night,
I know,
or whatever.
I understand how that works, I'm just saying, when
Okay.
it's a separate contract, it's a contractor doing the work, not us, so it's not our trench permit per
Yeah, no,
se.
he didn't open up any trench permit for any, but
No, but in the end, we're still the property owners.
It does, yeah, it doesn't matter at this point, we're responsible
It
for any
still comes back
security.
to us.
If somebody gets into that
Yeah,
hole and gets
yeah.
hurt,
Right, well, that was my point.
who's
is it's-
responsible?
It's a 7-foot deep hole they got
Whoever
in there.
owns the trench permit is, you know, that's why if they had pulled the trench permit, I'd just request that the fire department go down there and say, hey, this is a violation of, I forget, Jackie's Law or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's Jackie's Law.
Yeah, I mean, there is a trench box in the trench.
Yeah, but Jackie's Law means you have to put a
But it's-
fence around or have someone stand there monitoring the trench the entire time it's open. So if they're not meeting that, and, you know, that's putting us at liability, it's our property, so,
Right.
you know, we need to,
I walked around the back, I looked at that.
so I would
didn't like
request,
it, so.
I'd request that you talk to Jeff and have the engineers send a letter stating,
Well, no, send a letter, it's gonna be another week before they do anything.
I got Bill, I'm
but
gonna
you
talk
put
to
them
Bill
on notice,
tomorrow.
and if
Bill-
they don't address it, that, you know, they dug the trench, so, I mean, yeah, it's on our property, but.
It should get rectified.
Bill is the foreman in charge of that, so I'll be talking, and I've already told him my concerns, why this was delayed, why, you know, this thing was open for months now, since the holidays, and I'm not happy with all this, what was going on, so he's aware, but this now is a different matter. This is something that needs to be done immediately, not, you know.
What's their excuse, Judge, besides a pot?
They have it, according to Jeff, they have it in their the contract, they can go to do other business.
That's fine, but you can't
But
live an
that- but you
unsafe.
can't-
That's the other thing.
We're getting caught in the weeds here. We're talking about an open trench. All the rest of that stuff is immaterial at the
Right.
moment.
It's unsecured property. It's
And
unsafe.
I don't have a problem with them going to other jobs, and as
Except
long as
they're
they
leaving
finish.
ourselves
As long as
unsecured.
they finish, as long as they finish on time.
Right, but if the trench is left, and it's a safety issue, you know, I don't care.
The
I don't
reason-
care if we call OSHA ourselves and have them come out and inspect
Yeah.
Barbado, because then it's on Barbado.
Yeah, the reason I keep bringing this up is it's not a matter of the fact of, the problem is that if they had done the main early enough and secured it and finished it, they could have brought the fence around and secured the whole area properly and then done their little thing, okay? But they didn't do that. They left the whole building open and the backside open. So anybody, a kid or whatever, could have walked in there, fell in one of those trench areas or whatever, and got hurt.
But
Or the GAC, or
The
whatever.
timing thing isn't, we didn't dictate that in the contract, so
Right.
it doesn't matter what timing they did. It didn't follow your standard, that's
That
fine.
doesn't matter.
The fact of the matter is I don't care what their reason is, they can't leave the open trench, and if they think that they can leave the fence open until they finish their trench, they're wrong. I don't care. Put the fence back up and take it down every day you come in. Doesn't matter. But
Get something, get that,
they have temporary fences that you can buy, contractors use them all the time for securing a trench. So they need to get the trench secured.
Right now, it's just sections of fence that are laid over the trench. I wouldn't walk on them.
No.
Oh, hell no.
No, but like I said, it needs to be secured, and,
That's far from secured.
Now you get some
That would-
snow over the top of them, you
but
know. You don't
it's,
even-
I know it's on our
Right now,
property, but it's
everything's
not
mud.
our job, per se. And it's the contractors that's responsible for the safety of that site. So it's a simple call to OSHA if it has to be, and they'll come right out and inspect it, and then Barbado will get a massive fine over that, but.
That's our property and somebody goes in there.
Yeah, I mean, then we can say it's a
Right, I'm just saying,
contractor, but
liability-wise, OSHA, that's an OSHA violation, leaving an unmanned trench, so, it's, anyone can drop a dime to OSHA to have them come out and do an inspection, because you see an unsafe condition. So, whatever it takes to get it done, but, like I said, we don't wanna be on the hook for some 6-year-old that sneaks out of the house and doesn't, parents don't.
yeah, there are kids that live in that neighborhood.
Somebody out taking a walk, curious, what's going on over here? Boing.
Okay,
Dangerous situation.
yeah. So, yeah, get with Bill. Will Bill be in town tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay. That, and let him know that
We're unhappy.
somebody stopped, that one of us stopped, that I stopped down there, and that can't fly. So I'll stop by tomorrow on my way home from work. And I hope I don't see something. If I see something like that, maybe I'll make a phone call.
Then you can let him know that Our chairman's gonna take care of it.
That's my, you know, I didn't like leaving it then, but I'm certainly not gonna leave it a second night. Okay?
Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Then, okay, that's not up for discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Snuck that one in.
I know it was coming. I know it was coming.